What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing Starship Troopers from 1997. But before we get into that, let's cover those basics. My name is Michael Inman. I'm an airman in the United States Air Force and I upload videos on Mondays, sometimes Fridays, whenever I want. So if you like military and or Air Force content, definitely subscribe and make sure you turn the notification bell to on so you know when I upload brand new videos. Let's get into it. Starship Troopers is a very, very fun movie from 1997, except, maybe it's not appropriate for children at all. Like, if you are a child watching this video, let's say you are, okay, I'm not your parent, but in my humble opinion, if you're under 16, I'm not sure if you should be watching Starship Troopers, but that's neither here nor there. Again, I am not your parent. So let's continue on. The way this video is going to work is we are going to start off with a recap. Then we're going to go into some top level thoughts that I feel like I should share with you since I am someone in the military, what thoughts I had while rewatching the movie, because I've actually seen it before, but I've not seen it probably in like over 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. It's been a while. But, and then finally, after sharing some thoughts, we're going to end the video with a verdict. So should you see it or should you skip it? Now that I've discussed the layout of the video, let's jump into a recap of what the film is even about, so you even understand my notes. So the movie starts off with, well, violence. It starts off similar to what you may see in YouTube videos where they show you a part of the story that happens about an hour and a half later in the beginning to, I guess, get you hooked. You know, like some reporter, some like monster spider looking thing comes at him, like eats him or like grabs him, rips his body in half, throws his legs this way, his arms that way, blood everywhere, and then I think it's coming toward the camera at the ground. Like, that is a rough example of how the film starts. So the movie starts off with a lot of violence, a little Neil Patrick Harris feature, and that girl from Undercover Brother, for those of you who even know what that movie is. We will not be reviewing it on this channel, but it's a very, as I'm smiling, it's a very fun movie, so consider it. At least watch the trailer for Undercover Brother. But the main female distraction lead girl, she is in this movie. There's a quick montage or a quick scene that shows a lot of carnage, and then we get into the real plot. The main characters that we're discussing in this film, or that are worth mentioning, include Rico, the main character, Carmen, his girlfriend, Diz, we'll get into it, Carl, and finally Xander. Now all of these kids go to a high school in Buenos Aires, and let's describe some relations. Rico is dating and loves Carmen. Carmen, she's dating Rico, but she starts to bond with Xander. Diz has a huge crush on Rico, and Rico pays her no mind. It's really sad, actually. Truly a depressing arc. Anywho, Carl, well, we'll call him Psychic Carl. He's psychic a bit. He's a little bit psychic. He just loves his pet ferret. That's who Carl loves. And Xander, well, clearly he's pursuing Carmen, and Rico doesn't like that. But anywho, they all go to a high school in Buenos Aires. Now, all of them enlist in the military or, you know, pretty much join the military following high school. Following that, we actually follow Rico, since he's our main character, into basic military training for the infantry. He's an infantryman, so we follow him. Now it's very hostile, extremely hostile. At this futuristic, PS is in the future, even though the film was made in 1997, irony, right? But it's in the future. In this futuristic version of BMT, it is extremely hardcore. I would not have made it through. I would never have enlisted, period. But they are breaking arms, they are throwing knives through trainees' hands, they are live ammunition exercises. Insane. Oh, and then also you get lashes for punishment, meaning you are literally taken to a public square, tied to a post, and lashed with a whip. That is where we go for the next part of the movie, where we're at BMT for a while. Following that, we actually get to see Carmen's experience, because she actually joins Fleet. So she is being trained to be a pilot. So now we go on to what her experience has been like during the same amount of time. So what is it like for her to be learning how to be a pilot? We don't really see Carl anymore, but just know Psychic Carl gets tapped to join the Intelligence Directorate. Xander is also going to learn how to be a pilot. Uh-oh, Carmen and Xander are spending more time together. Good luck, Rico. And finally, Diz also joins infantry. She actually randomly gets like transferred to Rico's battalion. I'm not sure how that happened. Anywho, following the little portion of fleet training or flight pilot training that we see, the movie continues on, or the plot continues on, and we actually see Carmen send a Dear John letter to Rico. And a Dear John letter, for all my youngins out there, is the letter you send to someone, usually in the military, that's the context, but really it's just whenever you have to send a letter to someone saying, I'm so sorry, but this isn't working for me, so we're gonna have to break up. Boo-hoo. So Rico gets his breakup letter from Carmen, super sad. Continuing on, that makes him super sad. Then a little bit later, there's like an exercise with live ammunition that goes entirely wrong. And it's when Rico is actually commanding his squadron or his little flight. Not a flight like how Carmen's learning to be a pilot, but just a group of people going through BMT together, a flight. So anywho, Rico's in the lead and someone dies. So then Rico gets court-martialed. And he's like, I'm leaving. I'm done. This isn't for me. I only joined for Carmen anyway, and she dumped me. Right when he's trying to leave, well, all hell breaks loose, literally, on planet Earth. The enemies of the story, the Arachnids, a very scary alien race that looks like insects. They're pretty much just insects. They catapult a asteroid toward Earth, and it pretty much kills, I think, like 8 million people. I know over 1 million, but I think it's over 8 million people are killed in the Buenos Aires area. How does that happen, you might ask? Well, by happenstance, there are a few different types of bugs that we will discuss shortly, but one of those bugs can shoot plasma into the air outside of the atmosphere, and of course, since there's asteroids circling their planet, they can literally ricochet the asteroid in the direction of Earth via the plasma burst. It's pretty good math if you think about it. That's a lot of geometry. They're pretty good at what they do. So anywho, it kills millions of people, and we of course, wage war on the Arachnid planet. Now, before we get into more narrative arc or more story, let's uncover the type of bugs, just so you're tracking. The 6 type of bugs in this film include creepy crawlers, which are used to transport a very, very big bug we're going to discuss. Next are worker bees, which are the normal kind of alien arachnids that you see throughout the film. They are the scary things that kill, that wage wars or battles, and they defend the important other bugs. But we're gonna call them worker bees. Next, we have flying scouts, which they do some scouting work, and also they'll kill people if they can catch someone. But they have wings, so they move quick, and they'll snatch you up if you are not watching out for them. Fourth, we have, what would they be? I call them fire artillery because they're these very big, huge bugs that are able to shoot some kind of goo and set it on fire. So pretty much it's similar to artillery in the military. It can shoot at planes, it can burn men alive. That's the 4th type of bug. Next, we have plasma blasters, which I've already told you. They are able to blast plasma into space, and they can either ricochet asteroids if they want, or they can shoot down ships. So human ships that go to the Arachnid planet to wage war, a lot of them are shot out of the sky because this plasma causes immediate combustion when it interacts with our spaceships. So all the spaceships come tumbling down to the planet. No bueno, no bueno. And then finally there is the hive brain. So those are fat bugs they look pretty much like brains. Very creative design, right? They pretty much are brains. Earth is attacked. We, of course, wage war on the Arachnid planet. The first wave of our attack on the Arachnid, galactic system, because they have colonized a couple planets, but their headquarter planet. The first wave is an utter disaster and we're slaughtered. The intelligence failure is immense. Pretty much we didn't know the bugs, because we thought they were bugs, we didn't know they had the ability to properly defend themselves. So we're a little salty and a lot of us died. So I'm gonna need Mr. Carl, who works in intelligence, to get it together, okay? You are the problem. Just kidding, just kidding. Next, we have the second go, meaning, okay, we got ourselves together. Rico, of course, was part of that first wave attack. He's infantry. He gets moved to a different platoon because all of his platoon, or a lot of them, were murdered in war. And so the second platoon he's with has a second go, and it goes a lot better. You know, Rico finds some success. He pretty much blows up one of the fire artillery bugs from the back. He like shoots at its shell, throws a grenade in it, jumps off, and the whole thing explodes. Very impressive. So following his impressive moment, Rico and Diz, remember Diz transferred to his platoon, and they've been kind of together the whole time. And since Carmen and him broke up, Diz has been trying to, you know, make moves. In the wave of happiness, Diz and Rico finally have their moment. Yay! So Rico and Diz have their moment. It's very romantic, I guess. And continuing on, the next day, they are pretty much trapped. The bugs are clever. Maybe the hive brain puts together a plan. All we know is a trap is created. Rico and his platoon, Rico and Diz, and their wingmen, I don't know, their bros, their fellow soldiers. They are trapped at a location. A swarm of worker bees come and start murdering all of them. They do their best to defend their location, but it's not looking good. And in conclusion, Diz dies. Now, earlier in the story, after the first wave that was an utter disaster because of the intelligence failure, the military actually gets it wrong and says that Rico died in the attack, when actually he was saved and was able to, you know, heal over time. Well, Carmen is actually the pilot who is the, I guess, emergency pilot who comes in to save the last few people who aren't murdered or who don't die in the trap that the bugs laid out. So most of their unit dies, but a good, let's say 15 or 20 are able to be saved by this really talented pilot who swoops in and, you know, gets them back to the ship in space. Well, it turns out to be Carmen because she's a badass pilot. And Carmen, which of course Xander is by her side because now they're co-workers. Xander and Carmen are excellent pilots, so they actually become co-pilot things. Xander is like, hey, P.S., you know Rico, who we thought was dead? He's back there. Diz just died. I just wanted to let you know. I know he's your ex, and so it's not helping my chances, but I felt I should let you know. So there we go. So Rico and Carmen meet again. Diz died. Carl, Mr. Intelligence, still is gone. We don't know where Carl is. He's gone. Psychic Carl, no idea. And Xander, well, Carmen and Xander never became romantic, so sorry about that. Continuing on, following the rescue from the trap, the next day, I assume, Rico is like, send me back in, I want to help. And the movie concludes with Carmen's ship being shot out of the sky because of the plasma burst, her and Xander being pretty much kidnapped or trapped where they land. They have to kind of do a emergency landing. Where they land, a swarm of worker bees surrounds them. The little creepy crawlers pretty much transports the hive brain into where they are. It then pokes a hole in Xander's head, sucks out his brain. And in the last moment, Rico, following his gut, he just has a feeling which way to turn, left or right. He turns right, takes a few people with him, saves Carmen, and then later on, the military saves the day and captures the brain bug, or the hive brain. And so, all in all, we are able to study the brain bug, understand that the bugs are a lot smarter than we ever thought, but that having captured the hive brain allows the intelligence directorate to get intelligence necessary to help us in the war. That concludes the summary of the story. Let's, of course, move on to some thoughts about the film. So there's three categories of thoughts that I think are worth mentioning. Firstly, let's talk about world building. Something that I thought was interesting about this film was that there pretty much is a world government, and I know that's a very controversial topic. Oh my God, one world, new world order. Don't start. But this is the future that this director in this story projected out for whatever future year this is, maybe 2100, 2150, I don't know what year it's supposed to be, but just know there seems to be a world government and it's called the DLF, and I had to make up an acronym or make up what it's called, what it stands for. So the best I could come up with was the Democratic Liberty Federation. And that's all I could come up with DLF. But just know throughout the film it's called the Federation. So I'm not really sure if there's countries anymore. I just know there's a federation, which is like a world government. Maybe there's countries and all the representatives send a main representative to the Federation, and the Federation has authority over space and interstellar warfare. So, hey, worth mentioning. Next, there's a concept of civilian versus citizen, which was really interesting. Just know in this dystopian or really more like fascist future, civilians are normal people on the planet, but citizens are the ones who have served, who have done military service, and that's actually, it is required to be a citizen if you are going to be able to vote or hold public office. Also, through some dialogue, interestingly enough, they said that being a citizen makes it a lot more likely that your child license will be approved. So if you want to have children or to raise children, one, you need a license for it. That's what we can infer based on the dialogue. And two, being a citizen helps you. So it just speaks to, in this future world, some people join the military because they really want to be a parent one day, and this will help them be approved, hopefully, to have children. So that's a hot take as well, right? Needing a license for children. And then finally, in the world building category, is that a lot of the attire for this federation, all of these troops and especially the officers, even though Rico was infantry or enlisted, you could tell some of the other roles were more officer. It was the outfits were very Nazi oriented, or Nazi inspired. So that was a little off-putting, but it didn't distract from the story. Next interesting point is that there's recruitment videos throughout the film. So there's recruitment videos and propaganda videos, just little like 30-second things throughout the film. Think of them as like bookends for chapters. So as the film moves through its different like plot kind of points, you'll see random ads, and they're just really kind of disturbing. Examples include kids fighting over a weapon and being handed bullets like they're candy, because, you know, it's propaganda, like, join the war, you know? Fighting is fun. You should all be soldiers when you grow up. Also, a mom is fanatically cheering on children as they're crushing beetles, because, you know, bugs are the enemy. Arachnids are the enemy. They you know, killed millions of humans. So it's a lot of propaganda to make sure that the population supports the war, seemingly. And then finally, I will say one interesting thing was that throughout the film, there's like a website layout where you're like being clicked through a website of how to join. What information do you want? Do you want world news? News about the war? Do you want to know how to join? It was very interesting. Even though it's a very old looking website layout, it was very interesting to watch. So I hope you appreciate it if you do watch the film. And then the last thing worth mentioning for thoughts is just how does it overlap with my military experience? Well, firstly, the 5 characters of the movie, so Rico, Carmen, Diz, Xander, and Carl, they all take what is equivalent to the ASVAB, or the officer qualifying test, in this film. So even though we have the ASVAB and the officer qualifying test in the real world, you can tell that's what they're taking near the end of their high school career. That's why some of them have jobs such as, you know, infantry or mechanic available to them. Yet Carmen and Xander and Carl, their scores allowed them to become pilot and or intelligence and or all these other things. So you could tell that was an overlap, and I related to that experience. So in the real world, you can go to a military academy or just graduate college and then become an officer. Or you can do what's called OTS, which is when you're enlisted and you become an officer after a few years of enlisted service, or a lot of years of enlisted service. What was interesting here is their setup was more, most people, it's just you take the test and whatever your score is and the job you get assigned, that will dictate if you become an officer or not. So everyone has the same starting point. It's just some people, the jobs are enlisted, and other people like pilot, intelligence, after their training, they become officers immediately. So that was a little bit of a difference. One thing that also caught me off guard was that BMT was co-ed, at least for infantry. So like you saw men and women just showering together and just talking and having camaraderie and telling jokes, but they're all naked. So I think that probably would maybe be feasible in the future one day, but both sexes, or more like all sexes or all genders, would need to be to feel safe in an environment, and it would have to be that any kind of funny business, as some people would, lightly call it, it would have to be punished pretty severely to make sure it's kind of stomped out, so people enter the force not being concerned or feeling threatened by, a gender different from their own being there while you're showering. Whatever. But it was interesting. I wasn't off put, so I know I could handle it if it was the real world. It's just, it's feasible, but there would need to be some tweaks in the real world to make it work. So I'm confused on why we didn't just, if they pretty much sent an asteroid to us and killed millions of people. We do have a nuclear arsenal, I assume. At least today we do. So in this future world, we would have. And if they sent the equivalent of a nuke via asteroid and wiped out an entire city, I'm confused on why we were just being landed on their planet with weapons, like guns. Like, what's going on? I don't know. So that was confusing. And finally, I want to mention, even though it's such a light little comment, that Rico does become an officer near the end of the movie, because after the first wave of attack after we declared war, pretty much it's a disaster. But the second wave, because Rico does so well, he's actually promoted to a position that makes him officer level. So at the end of the day, he went through, in the real world, what we would call OTS and became an officer. That wraps up both the recap and my thoughts. Overall, I 10 out of 10 recommend this movie and hope if you're of age and can handle a violent movie. I do hope you check it out in your free time. Yeah, definitely see it. And maybe a provocative question, I hope you let me know in the comment section. Should Rico and Diz have joined the military if they were just going for people they liked? Like, Rico had a huge crush on Carmen, so he followed her to the military. I still feel like that was dumb, truly. And then Diz followed Rico to the military, and then she died. So I highly discourage anyone, especially on this channel where you guys come for military and or Air Force advice half the time. So please highly question your motivations before you walk into a recruiter's office, and make sure you're not following your crush into a recruiter's office, because I don't encourage that choice. So yeah, let me know if you've ever had that happen to you, you've done that, or someone followed you into the military, and or if it almost happened to you. Or if you know someone that followed someone into the military. How'd it work out for them? Thanks for listening. If you liked this video, definitely subscribe. Also, you can see this face in other places, such as Instagram and Twitter, at Michael A. Inman _. I can't wait till I see you next week, and until then, have a great one. Bye, guys.